quickly discuss setting boundaries with our small children. Children, especially when they're small, they only really misbehave for one of three reasons. Firstly, they don't know where the boundary is, and their job in the first couple of years of life are to push the boundaries and to see where they are. Secondly, sometimes the boundary walls are continually changing. One day the child jumps on the bed and mommy and daddy laugh, and the next day they do it, you're like, no, that's not acceptable, climb off the bed, you're going to get hurt. So now they're like, okay, now which one is okay? Because you're giving me mixed signals here. And finally, it's they have a need that isn't being met. So you can have whatever rule you want in place. If your child has a need, and the biggest need in small children is connection. So if your child has a need to connect with you, they will do anything in order to connect with you, even if it means getting into trouble. So when it comes to establishing boundaries or rules with our children, there are a few important things I think you should note. Firstly, it needs to be reasonable. For instance, it is reasonable to expect your 3-year-old to use the toilet before you jump in the car and go drive to the shops and buy groceries. But it's unreasonable to expect your 3-year-old to bath and never mess water out of the bath. Guaranteed there's going to be water spillage because the way they play in the bath kind of encourages that, okay? So very importantly, make sure whatever rule you have, it's reasonable. Secondly, you want to keep it simple. You don't want to discourage your child by having so many rules that it's almost impossible to follow them all. For instance, asking your 3-year-old to sit at the dinner table until everyone has finished eating, not to mess their food, to eat everything on their plate, and to not interrupt mommy and daddy while they're talking. Like, that's a lot to ask an adult, okay? But some people have these rigid rules. So stick to one or two things that are important. Be like, I want you to sit at the dinner table for a while and eat your food, and then when you're done eating your food, you can go. Because then there's no time limit on it. They don't have to wait for everyone else to be finished, and the chance that they will abide or stick within that boundary is much greater. And then finally, what often I find is a big problem is that when we do enforce a boundary, parents forget to offer an alternative. For instance, the child jumping on the bed. So they jump on the bed, you don't want them to jump on the bed. You go, oh my goodness, please don't jump on the bed. It's really dangerous. I'm so worried you fall off and you bang your head. But where can we rather jump? Why don't we go jump with a skipping rope? Or let's go jump on the trampoline. Or I've got an idea. Can you chase mommy to the kitchen and let's jump and jump and jump like kangaroos? Offer them an alternative behavior to the one that you want to discourage. So to be like, okay, I don't want you to do this, but you can totally do that. This is probably the biggest mistake parents make, is that they don't offer alternative behaviors. An example is my daughter wanted to take a battery-operated toy into the bath. No, Ella, you can't take this one, because if you take this one into the bath, the battery stops working, and then your little toy won't make music anymore. But I've got an idea. Why don't we go get your scuba diving Barbie and let's take her to the bath? So you give her an alternative and you kind of expand their idea of their conceptualization. Now, finally, I'll also want to add here that your job as a parent is not to control your child. Anyone that is controlled automatically kicks up with resistance. Even us as adults, don't try and control me like that, then I'll kick my heels in. And children are not different. Your job as the parent is more to teach them what is acceptable behavior and how they can rather behave in an appropriate way. And most of this is honestly done by modeling, but use these 3 tips. You'll see a lot of improvement in setting boundaries with your own children. I hope this helps.